What's up guys, I'm Nico of CamCrunch, and in this video I wanted to talk about whether or not the DSLR is dead. Now I know that this is a controversial topic, so I just wanted to say before I start this video is that everything that I say in this video is just my opinion, and I highly encourage you guys to leave your comments down below on what you guys think about this topic. Maybe there's something that I'm not, taking into account. Maybe there's something I'm overlooking. So definitely leave what you think about this topic in the comment box down below. So is the DSLR dying? Is it on its way out? And that's what a lot of people seem to think these days. A lot of people think that the DSLR is going to be replaced either by the mirrorless camera or even by the smartphone. Because in the past few months, we've seen a lot of news media outlets getting rid of their whole photography staff in favor of journalists just using their smartphones to cover events. And those are the pictures that they use in their websites and in their magazines and newspapers and all that sort of stuff. And in a way, I can see why they did that, because you don't really need a professional DSLR, especially with the camera phones that you get these days, or the point and shoot cameras that you get these days. They take adequate pictures for web use, or even for many newspapers and different kinds of publications when you're just reporting on an event. Something that just happens in a day, and basically something that a lot of which is forgotten after a while. You don't really need to spend so much money on such high-end equipment and high-end photography. And I kind of get that, but it's always sad to see. But that begs the question of whether or not the DSLR is on its way out. And my opinion on this topic is that I don't think that the DSLR is dying per se, because I don't think that it's going to die. I think that we're going to have DSLRs around us for many years to come. But I do think that the market for the DSLR is going to shrink. I think that the number of people that are going to buy DSLRs is going to dramatically shrink in the next few years. And, the DSLR market's just going to be limited to professionals and enthusiasts that just, want the best of the best image quality out there. So if we look back to the mid-2000s, early 2000s to the mid-2000s, people didn't have too many options for taking pictures in terms of digital cameras. You had the camera on your phone, which if we look back then and compare to the phones we have now, they weren't that good. They were small sensors, and there were a lot of megapixels crammed into those small sensors. To add to that, you didn't have a good interface to take photos. You had small screens, and you had your brick phone. It just wasn't built for taking pictures. The camera was just sort of an afterthought to that. There were cameras that were fitted with Zeiss lenses and that sort of stuff, but even then, when you look back to those cameras, they just weren't that good. And then you had your point and shoot camera, and a lot of people did have point and shoots. I remember all my friends in high school, and even looking back to my middle school years, I think that there were a few people in my class that did have point and shoot cameras. So those were popular, and people brought point and shoot cameras everywhere to different events, parties, that sort of stuff. Everyone just had a point and shoot camera. But then there were the people that weren't happy with point and shoot cameras, and those people bought DSLRs because there wasn't really anything above the point and shoot and below the DSLR. It was just the point and shoot, and then there was the DSLR. So everyone that wanted more than the point and shoot had to buy the DSLR. And that's where a lot of the DSLR buyers came in. A lot of the people that bought DSLRs weren't actually professionals. Professionals did buy DSLRs, but if you think of the bulk of the people that bought DSLRs, they weren't professionals. They just wanted more than the point and shoots, or they were enthusiasts, camera enthusiasts that bought the DSLRs. And so we continue to see the DSLR market grow because there was no camera in between the point and shoot and the DSLR. So everyone that wanted more than the point and shoot bought the DSLR. Now if we fast forward to today, 2013, almost 2014, we have a lot more options in terms of cameras, and all the cameras have gotten significantly better. And this brings in many factors in why I think that the DSLR is slowly going to get limited in size, the DSLR market. So first we look at the smartphones. Again, the smartphones back in the day weren't that good. But if we look to today, many people are completely satisfied with the pictures that come out of their smartphones. And in fact, like I said earlier, there are a lot of news outlets that are just using smartphones to cover events and that sort of stuff. So a lot of people that would have bought a point and shoot or even a DSLR are now sticking to their smartphones to take images. In addition to the smartphone, the overall quality being better, you get better processing engines in phones nowadays. You have apps, so you have interfaces built specifically for taking pictures. You have photo sharing apps and services. You have things like Instagram. It's easier to share stuff on Facebook and that sort of stuff, which makes the phone more appealing, especially to the masses that would have bought their, the point and shoot cameras or their DSLR. So the smartphone is really, it's growing in size in terms of the amount of people that are using it for taking pictures. So that already takes out a bulk of the people that would have bought DSLRs back in the day. They're now sticking with their smartphones. But then you get all of the cameras in between the DSLR and the smartphone. You have the point and shoot, you have the advanced point and shoot, you have bridge cameras and that sort of thing, you have mirrorless cameras, and you have a few other options. So if you take a look at those other options, that now stretches the amount of people that would have bought a DSLR to, mirrorless cameras, advanced point shoots, and that sort of thing. So I've even seen many people that bought DSLRs back in the day who now, when they upgrade, they don't upgrade to another DSLR, they upgrade to a better point and shoot or a better mirrorless camera or better advanced point and shoot instead of sticking with the DSLR and continue on that route. And that's because, again, before there wasn't that middle step. And before, the options below the DSLR just didn't give quality that a lot of people were looking for. Even though the DSLR quality was a little bit overkill, they didn't want to go below the DSLR quality because everything below it wasn't adequate enough. But now, when everything in between is adequate, you see a lot of people just jumping on that route, especially because of the size issue. Back in the day, there was the point and shoot, which was tiny, and then the DSLR, which was huge, nothing in between. Now you have things like the mirrorless camera, which take arguably just as good pictures as DSLRs, and you get them at a smaller size. And so a lot of the people are again migrating to that. So again, the people who would have bought DSLRs, now the market is so stretched out in between point and shoots, advanced point and shoots, mirrorless cameras and all of those types of cameras. And again, with the smartphones, all of the people who would have bought DSLRs back in the day, they're all stretched out with the, lower level cameras or cheaper, smaller alternatives, because those today are sufficient enough. And those are really the big factors. The smartphone, now that the smartphone is becoming a viable option for a lot of people, and the fact that there's so many options in between the smartphone and the DSLR is pulling away so many buyers from the DSLR. And in continuation to what I said earlier about people upgrading to mirrorless cameras or to point and shoots from DSLRs back from that they bought back in the day, a lot of the people that bought DSLRs back in the day aren't looking to buy DSLRs again today. Even if they don't plan on buying a point and shoot or a mirrorless camera, they're just happy with the DSLRs that they bought back in the day. And that covers, a lot of people. A lot of people already have good enough of a camera that they don't look to upgrade anymore. So again, that takes out a lot of people that are buying cameras nowadays. So then, who's left to buy the DSLR camera? Well, nowadays, I don't really see too many enthusiasts buy DSLR cameras anymore. I still do see a few, especially, the people that ask me in CamCrunch, but a lot of people are buying mirrorless cameras. A lot of people are buying point and shoot cameras, and a lot of people are sticking to their smartphones. So that, I've seen firsthand of people that just aren't buying DSLRs anymore. And like I said earlier, I just think that the DSLR market's just going to continually shrink, but I don't think it's really going to disappear in the near future, at least. So those are my thoughts on whether or not the DSLR is dying. Definitely share your thoughts down below, because I would love to hear what you guys have to think. And you can leave them in the comment box down below, or you can leave them in the social media sites, the CamCrunch social media sites. And I'll see you guys in the next video.